Hey, what's up? I'm Basil Barrington. Welcome back to another DJ Chit Chat. I haven't done one of these in a really long time, but I have some things to say, so I want to pop on and do another DJ Chit Chat video. So, what's been going on? Well, nothing really in the DJ space, as you can see. And I was talking to a friend the other day, and I was just like, dude, it's just not a lot going on in the DJ space. So I have two things I want to talk about today. One is I want to talk about the Allen Heath Xone K3, and I want to revisit the LFG TV, which I did another DJ chat about, a few months ago. Let's talk about the Xone K3 really quickly. Awesome device, love it. I've been using it with DJ Pro. And, Allen and Heath and Algorithm, provided a DJ mapping for that. It's really dope. It's 3 layers. I spoke about this when I did my review. It's just really dope. The only thing I would say is the sync is it just isn't tight. When you're using sync, when you've moved over to DJ modular systems, everything is synced up. You don't have jog wheels, you don't have turntables. So that sync needs to be very tight. I remember when Algorithm first came out, and I used to always say like, oh, this DJ software is too tight. There's some rigidity to it, right? It's too rigid. So update after update after update, it kind of really started like once they, introduced the version for PC. But anyway, when you sync things up, that sync just isn't tight. And so if I'm using modular DJ gear and I hit the sync button because everything needs to be synced up, it's just not tight. I'm bending a lot. I'm just like, okay, I got to get it in its proper space. And, there are some like fluctuations when you use sync on any DJ software. I do think that sync on Traktor is a lot tighter. But on DJ Pro with the K3, and even like with the AZ and the Flex 10, these are devices I have, that sync, it's not tight. You know what I'm saying? So it's fun to use, but I think if you are using modular DJ gear, whatever software you're using, that sync has to be kind of close, and it just isn't. So what I've been doing with the K3 is I've been trying to map it to Traktor. I've been trying to create a Traktor map. Now, Allen Heath did say that, the previous version of the Xone K series, the K2, you can use that mapping, right? And I was like, oh, okay, because, they stated that, that was the same mapping they used when they did NAMM, when they introduced the product at NAMM, right? And I was like, okay, cool, right? So I downloaded the K2 mapping, which is associated with Traktor 3, but it really doesn't matter, Traktor Pro 3. So you can go right onto the website and you can download the TSI file for the K2. So once you load it up into Traktor, obviously your ins and outs, you select the K3. Oh, and the other thing you have to do is you have to change the MIDI channel because the K3 comes shipped on channel 15, MIDI channel 15. The TSI file for the K2 is on MIDI channel 14. So before you do anything, you have to go into, go into setup mode on the K3 and switch it over to MIDI channel 14, if I can speak here. The other thing you should do, and no one speaks about this, is turn the layers off. I don't know why. So I plug it up. Everything is set, so the K3 is on MIDI channel 14. I download the TSI file for the K2. I load it. I turn on Traktor. I change the in and out to the K3, and everything is there. However, there's no visual feedback there, so the colors aren't matching. Well, not even matching. The colors don't show up. They just don't show up, right? And one thing you have to realize about the K3, if you're trying to map this thing, mapping the color schema is ridiculously, I don't want to say crazy, but it's you gotta, sometimes it just doesn't work. So I've been trying to map this thing out, and I'm just like, wow, this is kind of disappointing because I think the K3 is the perfect device for Traktor. It is. I mean, K1 was, the K2 is. now the K3 really is, right? Allen Heath or Traktor hasn't released an official mapping for it, right? Now, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. You're like, hey, you know, you can go in and map it yourself, right? Sure, I went in, I've been mapping this thing for like about 4 weeks, maybe even longer than that. And yeah, I can totally map it, right? I mapped everything out. But now I'm like, okay, how do I introduce the visual feedback, the colors, the RGB colors, right? And also, if you read the forums, Reddit, stuff like that, they're saying that you can only use 3 colors with the K3. And I'm just like, no, that can't be true, because if you use the Xone controller editor, you have a slew of like colors that you can use. Some people say, hey, you know what? You know, once you do this, take it into the Xone controller editor and then set up the colors and then, you know, bring it back over to Traktor. I don't know, but I've been trying to like MIDI map this thing myself because the K2 mapping just doesn't work. I know you have to go in and make some edits, but what type of edits? What type of edits do I have to make? That's what I want to know. And so I'm here to say this, right? The Xone K3, fabulous device. Built like a tank. I love using it. It's so creative. But I really think that Allen and Heath should do 2 things. One, create a video and say, hey people, if you're using the K3 with Traktor, you can download the K2 TSI mapping, and we're gonna walk you through how you can set this thing up in just a few steps, and then you'll be good to go. Create that video, because a lot of us are trying to map this thing. It's very difficult. It's very time consuming, and we just can't do it, right? I mean, it's just not working. I guess, you know, you can download some MIDI files. I'm not MIDI files. You can download some mappings. I don't like downloading mappings because, you know, it's just a code file, and you can place, you know, code inside of a code file, obviously, to do, you know, nefarious things. You can. Traktor has its own coding system when it comes to TSI files, but still, you know. So yes, Allen and Heath should create a video saying there are 2 ways to actually use the K3 with Traktor. One is by downloading the Xone K2 Traktor mapping and making some changes to get it to work. Let us know that you have to change it to MIDI mapping, MIDI channel 14, because it's you know, defaults to 15. Don't mess with 16. 16 is for the mixers. And just show us how to make these small little changes so that we can have some visual feedback with RGB colors and things of that nature. Or they can say, hey, you know, you don't have to go through the entire mapping setup, right? But create a tutorial that says, hey, I'm gonna walk you through how to set up the mapping for Traktor from scratch. And just show us a couple things, you know, encoders, faders, buttons, things like that, right? Not now. Okay, yeah, so we need that like video tutorial from Traktor, from Allen and Heath for the Xone K3, because right now I'm thinking like, hey, should I go out and buy the K2? Because there's a mapping already available. And I heard the color scheme is slightly different how you map it from the K2 to the K3. So right now, if you just, Allen and Heath, if you just go on to Reddit, if you look at forums, things like that, people are just like, how do you do this? Why don't you, as the authority, create a video and say, hey, if you're going to use the K2 TSI Traktor mapping file, this is how you use it. Or I would say and, because, you know, maybe that mapping is pretty tight for some people. But just at least show us, like, all of us know how to map. I mean, if we're using a device like this, we should know how to MIDI map. I can do that. Like I said, I've been working on this thing. What I did was I mapped the K3 to the same specifications as the mapping for DJ Pro. I really like that mapping with the 3 layers, right? And so now all I need to do is figure out the colors. And I'm selecting the colors based on the documentation, and it's just not working. So Allen and Heath, as the authority, I really hope that you create some sort of a video explaining how a device that you created works in terms of mapping it with Traktor. So we need that video. Come on, Allen and Heath, help us out, or create a mapping, you know. The next thing I want to talk about is LFG TV, right? Now, I think LFG TV came out, it was I think it launched in August of 2025, August or September, something like that. I first got wind of it because a YouTuber, Graham Farmer, I think his name is, he just went on, he created a video. Hey, you know what? DJs are looking for this platform. We're looking for a platform like this, blah, 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 where you don't have to get copyright dings and this, that, and the other. And, now we have a platform like that. I'm going to get to the conclusion a little early, but, so, and then you saw all these shorts like, hey, LFG TV is, what's going on, everything is popping. And then it's so many promo sponsorship videos about LFG TV, right? And then I linked up with this DJ on Threads, DJ Subculture, because I saw him on LFG TV, and I was just chatting with, yo, what do you think? He's like, I'm still, still trying it out. Everything is cool thus far. But I think the argument with LFG TV was that DJs would be able to use LFG TV, this platform to do live DJ streaming without any copyright dings. So you don't have to deal with, the publishing companies or the majors. I don't know how that works, right? And I was just like, oh, this is pretty interesting, right? So I signed up for an account, just so I can keep, my profile Crossfadr. Never used it. And I was just going on and I was looking at everything, right? And I was just like, okay, this is all right. It's a streaming service for live DJs, for DJs, right? The other thing was, they spoke about like how, users could tip you using LFG coin, which in fact was a crypto. No ICO, but it was a crypto. Even if you went on to CoinMarketCap, they were saying, hey, you know what? This is a crypto, but the owner could do any and everything they wanted to. They can mint more coins. They can remove coins from circulation, this, that, and the other. And I was like, ooh, okay. Anytime I see something that's associated with crypto, and I'm a crypto investor, but anytime I see something associated with crypto, the question mark comes up. I'm just like, okay, what's this all about, right? Because I think it's really interesting to know that when you say, hey, you can tip, your favorite DJ using a cryptocurrency, you also have to ask yourself, like, does that fan have like a wallet? Do they have ETH? Do they have all of this other stuff? And I just think that people don't really get that, right? It's just like with NFTs, it's the same thing, right? So I'm like, okay, this is what's up. And the weird thing about it is when you saw all the promo videos, just like people just saying, hey, this is the best thing. This will be the best thing out there. Come November, right? So this is the same year, August. I think it was August. It was summer of 2025. Then by November of 2025, LFG has shut down. And they said LFG 2.0. I also read that, they spent about, $500,000 to build out this system. And they had partnerships or, with Bport, Algorithm, and Techniques, right? And I'm just like, okay. But what does that mean? What does, that was the other thing. I was just like, okay, but what does this mean? I mean, if that's a partnership that those companies are really feeling, you would think that they would have some sort of an info on their websites. That never happened, right? And I'm just like, okay, so that was another red flag, right? So right there, I had like 3 red flags. I had the first red flag that this is the only platform where DJs can live stream without an issue. 4 red flags, actually. So that's one. The second red flag on top of that, or, just like, is that, okay, so what does that mean? Does that mean that you signed a deal with the majors? Because the only way you can play music without any copyright strikes is for that platform to have deals in place with the majors and the publishing companies. So that's 2. The third one was the coin. I'm just like, okay, what's up with the coin? The cryptocurrency. This is how fans are supposed to tip you. As if, Stripe doesn't have a tipping feature. Stripe is it. Stripe is the platform where you can, do all this sort of stuff. Stripe has the tipping, feature. So you're just going with a completely new sort of, feature in terms of how users can tip their favorite DJs. And the fourth red flag was that, they said that they have partnerships with Beatport Techniques and Algorithm. Apparently, again, and then in November, the LFG TV shut down, right? So they were like, hey, you know what? We're working on LFG TV 2.0. And I'm talking about this because I just posted an article on Crossfadr, about the downfall of like LFG TV. I want people to know this, right? See, I keep saying sometimes when I do stuff like this, I'm just like, I work in technology. I've been working in technology for decades. I understand this stuff. So the other thing I thought about, just the tech person in me, I was just like, okay, how are they doing this? Do you know how much bandwidth you need to have a website that does nothing but streaming live video? I mean, dude, your cloud data center has to be crazy. Fallback, redundancies, all that sort of stuff. You're not building this on like, just a small Google platform, plan. Your server infrastructure, your cloud infrastructure has to be so sick. And the other thing is this too, right? When you have a platform like a Twitch or a Mixcloud or even a YouTube, right? Those platforms, they have been built from the ground up. I mean, if you take a Twitch, when Amazon bought that, they were like, well, we don't have to worry about that. I mean, we have AWS, YouTube, they have Google Cloud, right? I mean, and then Mixcloud, they probably have a mixture of Azure, Google Cloud, and also AWS. A lot of companies do that. They use, maybe they build the platform on, maybe Google Cloud, and then the fallback is Azure. I've heard that the fallback is always Azure for some reason, right? So now, imagine this. You have this platform, a live DJ streaming platform. Do you know how much you will be spending on a monthly basis to get this, to make this work? And what I mean by that is, if you have in a month, if you have like 1,000 or 2,000 video streams, that's going to cost you. This can cost you anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 a year just to pay for that bandwidth, right? So that was another red flag. I was just like, I don't know if they understand this. I don't know if they built this on WordPress or something like this. Put it up on like WP Engine or WordPress VIP or something like that. It just didn't make any sense. Now, here's the really weird thing about those promo videos. One, they've been scraped. They are not on YouTube. The only videos you see on YouTube about LFG TV is when I spoke about it, and then maybe 3 or 4 other videos where those content creators spoke about LFG TV as well. These weren't promo videos. All the promo videos have been scrubbed. And one thing is consistent about what all these individuals were saying. Graham Farmer was like the first one I saw, right? And he's a top dog in the space, and I totally respect him. But he was like, he kept saying there isn't a platform out there like that, right? Like what LFG TV is trying to do. And I'm just like, well, wait a minute. That's not true. I was like, that's not true. I mean, what about Mixcloud, right? So how can you say LFG TV is going to be a platform like no other? They don't have any relationships, or they don't have any deals in place with the majors or publishing companies, so that when DJs do live stream, they're not going to get a copyright ding. Mixcloud does. Amazon has a skinny version, and you can play music like that on YouTube. You just won't get monetized, right? So when I heard that, like, there's no other platform like that, I was just like, no, there's only one platform in the ethos that gives DJs the ability to live stream without any issues, and that's Mixcloud, because the deals are in place. And so I was like, wow. I said, this is not gonna, LFG TV isn't gonna do well. I'm serious, it's just not gonna do well. So in November, they shut down, and now you really don't see them. I don't know what this was. I don't know if it was, just them trying to, like, they had an MVP and they were just trying to proof of concept, And then, you know, investors would come and say, hey, you know what, we like this, yada, yada, yada. I don't think that's really the case, because smart investors would say, well, why don't I just invest in Mixcloud? It's already out there. It's already built up. It's been around since the early 2000s. It's here, right? So you're taking a new platform from the ground up, and now you're competing with Mixcloud, and you're competing with Twitch. So what LFG TV did was they said, hey, they sent a message to the community, hey, we're thinking about maybe introducing gamers to the platform. This was supposed to be a DJ-specific platform. Now they're talking about, you know, adding gamers. What's the difference between that and Twitch? You see, so the business model never made sense from the start. I'm not saying I'm a genius, you know, but when I see stuff like that, because I work in this space, you know, I work on websites. I understand technology. I understand servers. I understand databases, this, that, and the other. How you're supposed to build infrastructure around the platform like this. The infrastructure alone would have just been so much money. You're talking about millions of dollars. And to sign a deal with the majors, you would have been spending hundreds of millions of dollars. So they never had the bandwidth in terms of people, dollars, and everything else. And LFG TV completely went done, you know, lights out. A lot of DJs were excited about that. I'm not sure why DJs were excited about it, because we have Mixcloud, so that's kind of weird. It's just like, oh yes, I'm excited about this new platform. It's almost like being excited about a new social media platform. It's just like, well, I already use Threads, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, all this other stuff. Now I gotta like deal with another, you know, social media platform. DJs, I wanna say this here, right? When a platform, when a new sort of player comes into the space, promising that they are going to be the difference maker, they are going to be different and better than platforms that have existed for more than 10 years, like a Twitch, like a Mixcloud, right? I think you should pause and ask yourself, like, really? Do you have deals with the majors? No, you can't answer that question. Oh, okay, all right. Can you explain to me what LFG coin is? Oh, you really can't? Okay, all right, all right. You said you have partnerships with Beatport, Techniques, and also Algorithm, but they're not saying that on their websites. All right. You really have to think about some of this stuff here, because now you're just like signing up, you're giving all your data to these companies, and you never know. A data broker can like say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna spend $500,000 to collect all this information, because when I sell it, I'm gonna make so much more money. So I use one of my hide my email, you know, emails. So as soon as I saw that that joint was like not cool, I like deleted that email. They have nothing, right? LFG TV was a quick and sad chapter in a DJ space. And again, I would just say DJs always look out for companies, you know, saying that they're going to create a product that's going to be better than products that are already out there, and that have proven that, you know, they are stable and they can maintain. Again, they've been around for like 10 plus years. Well, anyway, I just wanted to come on and talk about that. The LFG TV article is up on Crossfadr. Allen and Heath, help us out here. Create some tutorials for the K3. Show us how it works with the K2 mapping, and show us how to get the, you know, the visual feedback set up, the colors, the RGB colors, and even show us like one or two, you know, like do a mapping with the K3, like just straight from the start, map like a fader, map an encoder, map a button. Show us how it's done, and then we can figure everything else out. Well, there you have it. Until next time, peace.